Hi, everybody. Welcome to our final video of 25 for 25, celebrating 25 years of collecting. This is our wrap-up video, so we're going to talk a little bit about the process, our inspiration, and I'm going to facilitate this discussion by calling on each of you to share your thoughts. So the first question I have for this team, what inspired your decision to choose the collections that you did? I'm going to start with Betsy.
I chose collections that I get a lot of questions about, or that I thought that people might not be aware that we did have. So the most popular and those that people don't know about.
All right, thanks, Betsy. How about Kristen?
So I started in the field of archives as a photo archivist and have always had photography collections as part of my responsibilities. And lo and behold, that becomes part of your DNA, if you will. You lean toward that when you get the opportunity to have a little freedom about what you're going to research or work on in terms of your collections. And oddly enough, all the videos that I have done so far have been photo related. What a surprise. So so that's, I think, what's really happened is it's just a part of me, and it's what I lean towards when I have the opportunity.
All right, I'll ask one more person. How about Graham?
Yeah, I chose the materials that I did from predominantly the alternative press because they had good movement, good motion. So I could sort of flip through zines on the camera and have like the film aspect of it come alive in a way. I used some actual moving image for the video itself, which was probably the most difficult video that I worked on. But the collection itself has this one unique object that we don't have anywhere else in the collection that shows the moving images of the punk rock scene. So it made for good, I guess, medium content for what we were hoping to do.
All right, thanks. So, one of the things I loved about this project was seeing the different approach that everybody took. And I know that's in part because we were primarily doing this project from, from home, or a combination of being in the office one day a week and, home the rest of the time. So what were some of the challenges that you all found in producing your videos? And I'll start with Laura.
Well, I found that the technology was a challenge in the beginning. I wasn't sure how to combine the audio with the PowerPoint that I wanted to do. Luckily, we did have we were able to work with the expertise with other people in the library, and that helped greatly. So I think the technology was my biggest challenge.
Melissa, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Let's remember this was during COVID. And, what I found was a challenge was to sort of project outward, have a one-way conversation with the people that we were speaking with. So I sort of, I value the conversations that these pieces, inspire. And so for me, a challenge was to talk one way and to try to make this about sort of an exciting story to tell while just sort of speaking, in solo.
Great, thank you. And Clara, did you want to add anything from your perspective?
I would follow up with that and say I think that so much of what we do is done in dialogue, it's done in conversation. So finding the voice was really hard, I think, for me personally, because I think that, trying to find a narrative that you can articulate out into a video is very different than when you, say, teach a class, or when you're in a call, or when you talk to someone in person, right? So the anticipation of saying, okay, who is my audience and how are we going to reach across the abyss into this digital realm that we are now entering in was, that was a new challenge. That's something I think almost everyone had to experience going through COVID, and especially now moving into a virtual platform. That was something that I think we're all impacted by.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So I know, we've all been back in the office now for about a year, and we've had a chance to reconnect in person with researchers and also continue to connect with folks virtually. As these videos were made in the time of the pandemic and at a time when we were all working remotely, how do you see these videos informing in-person research? And I'll start with Kristen.
Oh, I'm so glad you called on me. Thanks. I think the main thing that each of the videos that I created expresses is, and I'll say in particular, the video that I did on the Kodak #1 photos. Those photographs were purchased for the collection. They didn't have a context. They were not even really, there was very little information about the provenance. All I had were the 6 photographs. But I think it's true of every video I've done, and it would be something that I would express to students, and certainly researchers would know this already. If you dig deep enough, even from something that appears to have no context, you can create a story and you can learn things about the context in which the object was created. You can learn things, since they were photographic images, you can use the what you're actually seeing in the photograph as a jumping off point. There are stories to tell about each of these objects, even if you have nothing else to go on, nothing else around it, if you will, to inform what the object is or signifies or is important for. So that's, to me, that's what these videos, what I would share with someone who was doing in-person research is, you need to dig. You need to really work every angle, every little clue you have to follow, and then you will create a story, essentially.
How about Laura or Graham? Do either of you want to follow up to that? Laura.
I could. My videos were like little history projects. I chose a lot of material, but I felt like I had to tell the story, the historical background for every for the items that I was highlighting. So in doing that, I found myself investigating the collections even deeper. And anytime I have my hands on the materials and I'm looking for something specific, or I'm just kind of working my way through folders and boxes, I learn more about the collection. And that translates itself into how well I think I can help any researcher, whether they come into the archives or I'm helping them remotely.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that, in a way, each of our videos, I'm thinking mostly more of some of my colleagues' videos, them functioning sort of as the primer for what question do you ask after you've come to the archivist, right? Like, as our profession continuously tries to describe what it is we do, and then in addition, like what role we serve in trying to like steward the collection and get people access to it, as well as some hopeful information to get into the collection in maybe an appropriate way that fits whatever the research question might be, trying to like bring the topics up to a contemporaneous period and like, oh, why is this relevant? Or like, what is the current issue that relates to the things that maybe students wouldn't know about, or just the general researcher might not totally understand what is in the collection. And not that we're defining for them how and why to use this, but it's at least sort of giving them that step closer to the collection in the way that we would probably help them in person. So yeah, I think this stuff really helps unpack the then more in-depth research that can be done.
Great. So in the course of the last year, has anybody received any feedback about these videos? How have they been received by the public or by researchers? I'll start with Betsy.
Sorry you started with me, because I have not, no one has come to me and said, hey, I saw your video on and I'd like to know more. My family liked them. I sent them the links. As far as I know, they're the only ones who watched them. I haven't check the YouTube stats, but they were created with the intent to, as Graham said, to be that tip of the iceberg, that yes, we have this type of material in all these different formats on all these different topics that we've kind of pulled together for you to get an idea, to answer that question that we frequently get in person. So what do you have? So I hope that they were well received and that they are informative. But I have not heard back directly, nor have I received any offers of donations or research inquiries that say, hey, I saw your video and.
That's all right. How about Melissa?
Well, we know they've been viewed, right? They're on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't gotten direct feedback, but I did cover in one of my pieces, the Broadside Press out of Detroit. And even though there has been recently a book written about Dudley Randall and the Detroit-based Broadside Press, it's many of the poets he published that are finding renewed interest. So the only thing I have to go on is to see that one of the poets in the Broadside Press was mentioned in several Wikipedia posts. And Audre Lorde is now, featured in many undergraduate curriculums. So, right, I think we could try to, we can look at feedback in the broad sense, and let's just hope that they'll continue to be viewed and be used possibly in ways that we'll never know. But.
All right. I'll open it up to anybody else who wants to jump in. Any other feedback that folks have received?
Well, I just want to say that, these videos will live on for the foreseeable future. We can, they're always online, and we can randomly try to mark it out, through our social media reminders that we have these videos, and encourage people to look at them. They were all, when they all first came out, we did, across all of our social media, we advertised them, and we can keep doing that.
Hey, you guys, is it worth mentioning sort of who inspired this? Kristen, do we have a memory of sort of our peers maybe that were helpful in inspiring a video project?
Wait, you're digging for an answer to a question, and I don't know what the answer is.
Oh, wait, let's remember. Was it the V&A Museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Who else did we see recently? A few documentaries, right, Graham? Maybe
the Muter Museum, the Muter Minutes,
Yep.
their curators.
Yep.
Those were a big inspiration.
National Portrait Gallery.
Yep, National Portrait Gallery.
Yep, for their virtual tours. Yeah, we had a lot of great inspiration for this. And I would say that overall, our marketing campaign went really well for this series. I feel like it was really well received on our platforms. And the good news is that we do know that it offered an entry point for people who weren't able to come to UConn, especially during COVID, and that this gave them a way to access our materials in a more meaningful way than I think than we had been able to offer before. So a different way, not that it was better, but just a new approach. But yes, lots of different inspirations for this project, and it took a year, a full year dedicated to the project for all the archivists, and we were successful. So, jazz hands. we can edit that out. Sorry. Okay.
Well, I guess it's a good segue to the final question, and this is for everybody. What is the takeaway that is maybe not obvious in this project? So I'll start with Melissa, and I'll just call on you from there.
Wow, a takeaway. Well, I hate to say, some of us, let's just say writers, creative people, makers often say, if you put constraints around your creativity, if you put some structure to it, it allows you to be creative and to see things, to open a window into in your to observe something in a new way. So I really felt like COVID was a frightful time. It was a time of worry and the unknown. But I have to say, personally, connecting with the collections and trying to be a producer as well as a player in these videos allowed me to feel some connection with the people that we were so distanced from. So I hope we continue it, and I hope we do get others to join us in doing these videos as well.
Graham.
Yeah, that was well said. I think, just us being set to a task to make these was a nice sort of intentional question that still left us enough agency to kind of decide what we thought was going to be relevant. I know one of the ones I made on the Black student sit-in photographs was almost specifically for a class that was being taught on anti-Black racism in 2020. And so it really allowed me to kind of dovetail what I would want the archives to say about that topic. But the fact that it shows our hand in the work, like, I think the takeaway for me, at least, just knowing all of my colleagues doing such interesting sort of perspective work on their own collections, these are archivist videos. And there's something about that is very interesting from an archivist, hopefully from non-archivists too. But I think I can really see like the sort of passion that we all have for the work that we do.
Laura.
I enjoyed working on these projects because it was like a little history, the digging for the history behind the collections, and letting me see and realizing that any one item can have many different interpretations. So I liked being able to work a certain item into the interpretation of the project I was working on, and kind of seeing where that took us, being able to behave as a historian with the archival collections that I work with daily. And it gave me a different hat to wear than I usually do. I enjoyed that.
Clara.
Hello. I don't know why I did that. So I would say that what was really exciting about this, because I watched everyone's video, because I had to put everyone's video up on our social media, not the one I was responsible for. What really stood out, I think, was everyone's voice, which was really nice. It was really nice to see how everyone's voice and how they articulated themselves, how they approached a question in their collection or their collection area or their object that they were looking at, and how they were expressing themselves was really unique. And what made this project very unique, I think, in its right, was that it was a team effort, right? It was a team effort, and that we were all expressing different points of view, different research points, all the things, but it was cohesive. So even though we had our own separate points, there was a marriage of it into one project line, which was exciting as a whole. So we got to explore different aspects of research. So diplomas for Betsy, railroad history for Laura. I think there was crocheting or sewing embroidery for Kristen. I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, I'm remembering everyone. So it was just this beautiful like spider web per se of research that you could just explore. And as a viewer, you could just say, oh, what's this about? What's this about? So that was really fun, because I actually learned a lot just by watching everyone's videos. So I knew a lot more than when I first started. So that's it.
Betsy.
Everybody said almost all of the words that need to be said, but I will say, one, it allowed me to use technology that I did know how to use in new and different ways. And it gave me ideas on how to answer researchers' questions in advance so that they might be more prepared when they can come in person. And I have a project that got put off because of COVID of documenting through a similar process what happens to a collection when we say, yes, we will take it, and all the steps that go through, more instructional, because I get asked a lot, why do you want this? That I answered in the congressional collections question, or why is this important in the diploma question, or, you know, but I don't see my experience in these materials, which I tried to do with the diaries. So trying to answer some of the questions that we received when we got them in person in a medium when we couldn't be in person, that hopefully will have a life beyond this time period when we're back in the office and people can travel more regularly and approach our collections and maybe feel more comfortable about coming through those scary glass doors where you have to tell someone what you want to look at, even if you really don't know what you want to look at. So yeah, it was fun. It was hard. Oh my heavens, it was hard. But I did, in retrospect, it's one of those things you appreciate doing now that you've done it.
And finally, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, for having us do this project. I'll just end our conversation on a practical note and sort of circle back to Melissa's idea of the theme of constraints. You know, I've never produced a video before, so I can certainly say that when tasked to do something, despite what you may know or what may be available to you, you can make it happen. It may not be the prettiest, it may not be the most perfect, but I will say that what I did take away, though, is that you very quickly see the value of the technology or technological advances that have occurred before you get into something, like even something as basic as the teleprompter. Wow, what a miracle. What a miracle, someone that was created out of a need. And that's, my takeaway is you really can do just about anything, regardless of what you have, but thank God for technological advances. So.
All right, well, thank you all for your thoughtful responses and your participation in this project. And for our viewing audience out there, please do check out the exhibition. It's on YouTube under the playlist 25 for 25. So thanks, everybody.